Hi everyone, my name is James Allardice. I'm a JavaScript engineer at Mammal, which is a small agency in Shoreditch focused on JavaScript. We use Node, Angular, CountDB, so JavaScript everywhere. And we're starting to try and use ES6 as much as possible. So this talk's going to be a brief introduction to how you can get started using ES6 now in like a relatively straightforward way for the modules that you want to publish to NPM.
Shout!
Alright? Yeah, for modules that you want to publish to NPM, because it's kind of a nice self-contained way to get started with it rather than deploying your whole app from the ground up. So, ES2015, 2015 is the latest name for the next version of the ECMAScript spec. You'll still commonly hear it as ES6. I will refer to it as ES6 throughout this because it's just easier. The final draft has now been released. I think it was released about a week ago. So it's now gone off to TC39 for final approval, and all the features that you'll have heard about are now finalised and mostly able to be used. Obviously, existing JavaScript engines are gradually implementing the new features, but there's still a way to go. So before that happens, we need a way to be able to start using the new language features today. And the way we can do that is via Transpilation, which is a process of converting ES6 code into valid ES5 that will run in existing browsers and node.io, any existing modern JavaScript engine. I think the technical name for these transpilers is a source-to-source compiler, but the terms are pretty much interchangeable. And again, transpiler is an easier word to say, so I'll refer to them as transpilers throughout this. Babel and Traceur, you may pronounce them differently. I don't know how you're meant to pronounce either of them really, but those are the two main transpilers for ES6 that you'll have come across. And Babel at the moment seems to be significantly ahead. It can cope with far more features and it has a very rapid development cycle. So would probably be the one to go with if you were planning to look at using ES6 now. You can see from just a screenshot of ES6 compatibility table. So I've ordered this by number of features implemented, but Babel is way up in front by more than 10% really. So Babel's a good bet for now for Transpilation. Right. So good idea to keep your source and transpile code separate, which would be a common, normal thing for any other language. See it less often in JavaScript projects until now because there hasn't been the need. JavaScript is an interpreted language, the code. You store and keep it in your repository and it runs. When you're transpiling it, there's less, you don't want to keep the compiled code in the repository, so you split them out into separate directories and ignore compiled code, so that will go in your gitignore file. And you'll need to install a transpiler. Again, as I said, Babel, probably the best bet for now. Install it globally, and that will allow you to start just running it from the command line, just so you can play around with it. But if you want, when you're going to start building an actual package that you want to publish to NPM, you'll need to put that in your package.json file, So this is the initial setup for an ES6 project. We've got a compile script which simply invokes Babel. It will take anything in your source directory and it will create a corresponding compiled file in the lib directory along with a source map for that file. The S option will produce source maps. So you get for every source JavaScript file, ES6 file, you'll get one compiled file and one source map. Test script is slightly different because we can tell Mocha to compile the ES6 code on the fly. So by registering Babel as a compiler, whenever the test runner comes across an ES6 file, it can compile it on the fly, cache the result, and run it that way. So which means there's no need for you to then to run that compile script against your test files. You can write the tests in ES6 as well, and they can be compiled on the fly. The main file, so the entry point to your package, normally that would be just your main source file. In an ES6 project, the only difference is you want that to be pointing to your compiled file, because that's the one that people will need to require into their projects if they depend on your package. You see I've added another one dependency there, core.js, which goes hand in hand with Babel and is a polyfill for the new ES6 standard library methods. Babel and Transern, any other transpiler will just deal with syntax. So things like new arrow functions, whereas core.js will deal with just new standard library features like new array methods or set and map constructors. So you don't necessarily need that, but if you're going to be using new standard library features, include that in your dependencies, or they can require it into your code later on. And obviously add Babel to your development dependencies so that the compile script runs against the locally installed version of Babel, and obviously along with the test tools as well. So with that set up, you can start writing your actual ES6 code. Instead of using a .js extension or a .es extension, which is what I would probably prefer to use, it tends to be better to use .es6 purely because if you're pushing it up to GitHub, GitHub doesn't seem to cope with syntax highlighting for anything other than .es6. If you use .js, it will attempt to highlight it as ES5 and break. If you use .es, it highlights it as Erlang and really breaks. So yeah, .es6 tends to be the best bet if you wanted to push it up to GitHub or use normal syntax highlighting tools. Include a standard library polyfill, core.js, as I showed you earlier. You can require that into your code as normal. Potentially also need the regenerator runtime. So both of these are included in the Babel package and can be included. Well, it's very simple to include them via Babel, and just at the first line of your ES6 code. Actual ES6 features, I'm sure you've seen plenty of already, so I'm not going to cover any of that now. There's loads of guides available. The one mentioned there, Luke Hovan's ES6 features repo is a really great, pretty small, simple resource if you just want a refresher or a quick intro to some of the new features. That would be a good place to start. So, having written some ES6 code, you'll want to try and publish your package to NPM so other people can depend on it and use it. The way you do that is with a pre-published script, which if you've ever written anything in, for example, CoffeeScript, you may well have seen if you published a CoffeeScript module to NPM, you probably have to use a pre-published script to build valid ES5 code from that. So it's a very, very similar concept. And you'll also need to add an npm ignore file, which is effectively the same as like a git ignore file, to tell npm that it doesn't need to pick up your ES6 source, and it only wants the compiled ES5. So simple pre-published script in package.json that can simply run the compile script that we added in earlier, and an npm ignore file just with a single entry. Once that's published to npm, anyone can then npm install your project as usual. They can require your project as usual, and that's it. Because it's compiled to ES5 and npm's ignoring the ES6 code, it just has the compiled code. It does work exactly as usual. And then in the future, when the V8 engine in Node is able to support native ES6 features, we'll just be able to cut out that compile step and republish the project without the npm ignore file, and existing code written this way should still work.
Did you have to define a dependency on the polyfill as well? If you're bringing in your code as well?
No, because it's in your ES6 packages, package.json.
Okay, so
npm will pull down that dependency at the same time.
Is there a way for io.js, for example,
exactly
to skip the pre-publish step? There's no way for now.
Not at the moment. Well, unless you are only using features that are available in the version of V8 in io, which, as far as I'm aware, is not a huge number yet.
Okay.
And yeah, but so for now you can do this, and as I said, eventually you'll be able to cut out that step. If you were only targeting io, you'd want to specify in your in the engine's property of package.json so that it can only be installed by people using the right version of io, but it would restrict you significantly. But yeah, if you were using this in your own environment and that was your use case, then yeah, you could skip out that step. Right. Yeah, so that is about all there is to it, to writing ES6 now, to publish to NPM. Some other stuff that you could look at if you're interested in taking any of this further would be how to publish the ES6 code for use in the browser, so perhaps to Bower, or for use with module loaders like Webpack or JSPM. It's a very similar concept. So it wouldn't be a big leap at all from what I've run through here to get browser refined versions running. And the other interesting thing is more on the fly transpilation. So I touched on that earlier with for the tests. If you're building an app rather than just a module for other people to consume through NPM, you can tell Babel to hook into Node's require system, pick up any ES6 files that come through that, transpile them on the fly, and cache the result. So any further requires can instantly get the transpiled version rather than the source. And that will allow you to cut out that build step entirely. But obviously you don't want to force any consumers of your package into using it that way and having to depend on Babel itself in their app dependencies. So that process doesn't really work from a NPM publishing point of view, but is a really great and quick way to get to start using ES6 in your own actual apps. So, thank you very much for listening. Anyone got any questions?
So I've used Beyond the Flights stuff, and I was playing around in unit tests.
Yep.
But what I found is that when my tests failed, it gave line numbers, which were line numbers in the ES5
Yep.
compiled version, not my line numbers.
So
what we kind of need is source maps for Node, which I don't know if that exists.
it does, but the easiest way to do it was always with Node Inspector, which is so basically like Chrome Inspector for Node, but that has been broken with Node since version 0.11 something for the last maybe month or so, which I believe people are working on fixing. And as soon as that works, or if you're still using Node 0.10, that would work, because as I said, Babel will generate the source maps.
Yeah.
You can get it to generate the source maps in line as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, the problem there is being able to actually see the link between code, compiled code and original code, which Node Inspector can do, but you need to be using for now a version of Node that supports it. Yep.
I just want to mention we publish into the browser using a module called Babelify.
Yep.
Which is a plugin from Browserify, which is the module syntax as well.
Yeah. Yeah, the new module syntax is one of the best things about it, really, in my opinion. So, yeah, I haven't had to do much stuff in the browser yet. So, but
We're doing a load of front-end stuff, so
cool.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you very much.
So if you've got any other questions, any feedback for the talk, then I guess drop it in the Git channel. And then next on we've got Simon, wherever he is.